Winter storm number 1 is underway and storm number 2 is on deck. I've spent so much time talking about the current situation that I haven't had a chance to show you what's lurking around the corner, except in little snippets here and there. We're going to get into that here in just a minute. I want to show you the latest data, what's going on with the current storm that is happening right now. And look at this. This is a framer, folks. You have never seen such a swath and expanse of winter storm warnings. About 55% of the population is covered by this winter storm or will be impacted by it. I told you those winter storm warnings were coming from Maine, and sure enough, they have since the earlier update. And this is as many counties under a winter storm warning or ice storm warning as you'll ever see, plus winter weather advisories. Amazing stuff to behold. This is an expansive storm. There's the radar image, and boy, the snow is really performing well from North Texas up into Kansas, all of Missouri, almost all of Illinois, almost all of Indianapolis, getting into Ohio. You guys should be seeing some snow now. Kentucky got a little hole there in the middle, but making it in. We've had reports of snow in West Virginia and northern North Carolina, even a thunder sleet in Waco, Texas. But right now, we're not seeing a whole lot of activity in here, and that is good because we're not seeing a lot of icing. We've had a lot of icing concerns down here in the deep south and areas around the lower Mississippi Valley up into Mississippi, and of course northern Louisiana back into Texas and up into central Tennessee. And again, we haven't seen much precipitation in around Atlanta over to Columbia, Greenville, Spartanburg, Charlotte. Haven't really gotten in on very much, and that's good news so far. But my friends, it's coming. This is another hot spot for ice, and the snow will be spreading to the northeast through the night. You can see that our current Atari map shows where it's snowing, where it's icing here in the purple, and where it is raining. And not all of these areas are seeing that, but that is the current weather forecast at least, and it's matching up pretty well. Now, we talk about wedging all the time. We talk about warm noses and inversions and all of that stuff. And if you're not familiar with meteorology, then some of that stuff kind of sounds like another language. But here's what's going on in the east. We've got high pressure. It is wedging down east of the Appalachians. We've got this northerly flow that's working in, and it is banking cold air up against the Appalachians. You can kind of see these kinks. You see this? This is about a mile up off the ground, and where you see the blue lines here, that is cold temperatures. Those are below freezing. Hey, there's the pin. It pops up just at the right time. And you can see right here, here's the freezing line about a mile up off the ground right there. Anything below that, south of that, is above freezing. And of course, if you want snow to fall, you need to have all of your layers from the base of the cloud where the snowflakes are coming out of below freezing all the way down to the ground. Check out this image. This is a pretty good image. It sort of talks to that. It's put out by the National Weather Service, and I'll make it a little bit bigger so we can see it. This is what happens, folks. When the air is below freezing from the clouds all the way to the ground, you get snow. When there is a warm layer like this orange triangle poking in here, we call this a warm nose. You can call it an inversion. It's just warmer temperatures aloft. Usually temperatures decrease with height, but with storm systems and other things that happen in the atmosphere, sometimes you get this little warm layer coming in. And when those snowflakes hit that warm layer, they melt a little bit, and they turn into really cold raindrops and maybe partially melt, and then they refreeze if this surface layer is below freezing again and it's deep enough. It gives those raindrops a chance to freeze. It falls through the layer. There it is. It falls as sleet. Let me get my little line off of there. Boom, there we go. Falls as sleet. But what happens if the surface layer is very shallow, like it is right in here, but it is below freezing, but it's very shallow, and the raindrops don't have time to refreeze once they melt? Well, they hit the surface and they stick and they freeze to power lines and cars and sidewalks and roads and tree limbs, and they accrue as ice. And if you get enough of that, you get the snapping, popping sound when the power goes out. You're laying in bed, you hear explosions in the woods as trees are blowing up and things are falling out. That's bad. That's a bad sound. You don't want to hear that. Well, that's what a lot of people are going to be hearing tonight, unfortunately, because this is what's going on. This layer is very warm, it's very potent, and you don't have enough the expanse of freezing layer to really freeze those raindrops. And then if it's all warm all the way to the ground, of course, it's just plain old rain, and that's what you're seeing in Alabama, and we'll be seeing some of that in Tennessee. But you can see that wedging down. It's very deep right now, but as the storm system moves in, those blue lines will retreat rapidly to the north and maybe even make its way into southern Pennsylvania before all is said and done. Current power outage map is Texas, you're out of power. Parts of Louisiana, Texas, you're not out of power, but you're in blue, you have between 10 and 50,000 out, 50,000 to 100,000 in Louisiana. So things are starting to get bad here, particularly in the northern part of the state between Shreveport and Monroe. So it is looking not great over there. This is what's going on at about a mile up off the ground. And here again, this is the 850 line. This is the what we call the 850 line, but it's the freezing line about a mile up off the ground. North of that line, for the most part, you're good with snow. South of that line, you're getting mix, and if you're far enough south, you're getting rain. All right, that's kind of how it works. Now, watch what happens at this line. And by the way, it's just one layer. You know, above the layer a little bit, there's some freezing or some above freezing too. So maybe up towards 750 millibars or so, there's above freezing temperature. So we're just right now we're looking at one layer, but just know it's a little bit deeper than this. And watch what happens through the night. We get on in toward tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. tomorrow. North Carolina, you're done with snow. Virginia, you're about to be done with snow. Tennessee, and on down here into southern Arkansas and East Texas, you're done with snow. The line will actually be crashing back south by this time as the storm is pulling away from you guys out west, but it is coming in here and it will run up the, basically up here toward West Virginia and then reform off the coast. And when it does, it's just pouring. Look at these winds here at 850 coming in, just screaming out of the southwest. This is blowing all of that warm air from the south up into the northeast, mid-Atlantic, Baltimore, D.C., and Charlottesville. You guys are all Richmond, all freezing rain or sleet at this point. The farther north you are, the more sleet you have. And this gets the 850 line just up to Philly, northern New Jersey, and into New York City, Long Island. You flipped over. And because we're only looking at a snapshot of one layer here, a little bit above this is above freezing too. So really this would be making it into, the above freezing layer would actually extend farther north into Pennsylvania. So, and then things will crash back down as the storm winds up and pulls away. That's what's going on with the storm. We take a look here. One more thing, I told you earlier today that I like to look at which model is performing the best in terms of right now. This is what the RGEM, we've been looking at the RGEM. This is what the RGEM is showing is happening right now, okay? Now check out the radar. Does that look like the RGEM? Well, the snow part does, and the rain shield kind of over here does, but the RGEM has all of this precipitation that's going on, and what are you doing there, RGEM? There's nothing going on here. This is all light and spotty, and there's not really any precipitation here. What about the NAM? What does it show? Well, we've been kind of dogging the NAM on its precipitation output, but look at this. Doesn't that match up a lot better with the radar? So there's the current radar. A lot of holes in here between Dallas and Memphis and Little Rock. Not seeing a lot of precipitation right now. Go back over here to take a look at the NAM. And that's what kind of the NAM is showing. It's not perfect, but it's lining up a lot better with reality. So we're going to roll this along and see what it does as it goes through, we head through the night. All right, so it's at 7 p.m. East Coast time. We're running this through now. It does fill in. Look at this. We get more sleet. It's actually showing more sleet. I think we're going to see more freezing rain maybe down here south of Dallas and toward San Antonio and Austin than we're actually seeing on the NAM. It's showing a lot of sleet here. It might be right, but it's right on the border, of that. And then we fill in with freezing rain and sleet through northern Louisiana back into northern Mississippi. We get a line of freezing rain, and look at this line of convection starting to build up here over the deep south. We're getting thunderstorms to form and move through, and I'm going to show you something really interesting about those thunderstorms in a second. Here it comes. Boy, it's snowing to beat the band up through the Ohio Valley. It's just putting it down in Pittsburgh and places like around in the northeast, Albany, Syracuse. You are getting pounded with snow. New York City, some places up here, the NAM thinks you're going to get about 2 feet of snow, and you just might, but some of it's going to be cut down by sleet. And you can see that sleet line making it all the way up toward Scranton and Allentown, and up here in the boroughs, really starting to feel some of that mixy precipitation. We get on in toward tomorrow evening, still snowing, Ohio up into New England, and then finally we start to see those 850s come back down. We'll see some of that snow turn to, or sleet turn back to snow. And look what happened in North Carolina. I didn't even show you this. I'm going to roll this back so you can see it because I was talking about the Northeast. We get a little bit of sleet, and then finally it starts to warm up enough to where we can melt, or not melt, but turn that sleet over to freezing rain. And it's showing just very little accumulation of freezing rain until that squall line moves through. We could have gusty winds and thunder, sleet, or thunder freezing rain working through parts of North Carolina. Look at that. I've never seen a squall line come through like that, my friends, with freezing rain, and then we get a little bit of rain as temperatures warm up. That is the NAM. I'm not 100% sure that that wedge is just going to erode like that that quickly and that easily, because it is a very cold wedge. We're talking about temperatures in the 20s with precipitation just locking that in. Models like to scour that out, but we do have an anomalously deep and warm nose just blasting in from the from the southeast, or the southwest rather, and that's something, my friends. This is not an easy one to figure out over here. The NAM is not showing a lot of precipitation. We've been watching that and saying, well, the other models are really showing a whole lot more precipitation here. The NAM's kind of dry sliding, which is not uncommon, but we've got a deep wedge. We've got a lot of moisture coming over the top, and eventually, that's you're going to expect that to fill in most cases, but the NAM is not showing that, and it's showing you all the sleet down here. It just continues to pound the area with sleet. Sleet makes up into Virginia as we head into Sunday morning. 8 o'clock, we're looking at sleet advancing northward already. Baltimore and DC, you've turned over to sleet. Look at this, getting in Pittsburgh, you might be spared. State College, you might be spared. It's going to be real close. Philly, Allentown, you're sleet. Trenton, you're sleet. And southern half of Virginia to the Delmarva turning to rain on the NAM. New York City, all of Long Island, southern half of Connecticut and Delaware, and even Cape Cod is going to sleet. Boston, you're safely snow, and everybody else is too. And we get cooling on the backside, and it's more sleet down here as the precipitation pulls away. That is the weather as the NAM sees it, and the NAM is respectable with its thermals aloft, so it may very well play out this way. Some of the other models have the sleet line a little bit farther south. It's a battle zone. We're going to have to watch it and watch those radar returns as we head into the morning hours. Here is your precipitable water anomaly, how moist the air is relative to normal through a column. Look at this. This is unbelievable how much moisture we're talking about. We have not seen this moisture all winter long, it seems like, with that dry northwesterly flow. All of that moisture just comes up out of the Pacific and the Gulf and just translates through. So we've got a lot of moisture, which leads me to believe that potentially the NAM is maybe a little bit dry here in the Carolinas. That would be the saving grace. Get a little less precipitation and a little more of the precipitation that falls in the form of sleet. It's not the official forecast yet. The official forecast still keeps us anywhere between 25 hundredths of an inch, so a quarter of an inch, to 75 hundredths of an inch, so a quarter to 3/4. I don't know why I'm giving you the 75 hundredths and all of that stuff. I could just say a quarter to 3/4 and you get the point. The NAM is a little bit lighter though. Look at this, not very much. I mean, a quarter of an inch is a lot, but it's not the apocalyptic numbers we were showing before. Either way, whatever happens, this area here, northeast Georgia, northeast South Carolina, and the escarpment down here in southwestern North Carolina, is going to be the biggest area here that we need to watch. And then secondarily, foothills back up through the Piedmont sections into Virginia, going to have to pay attention. Let's draw this a little bit better. This is kind of the main area that I'd be concerned about seeing extra ice, unless we pray that the NAM is right. And if it is, we're in good shape. But even with what's going on with the NAM, big time ice accumulations up to an inch in some spots. I don't think we're going to see an inch and a half, but certainly in this area here from Louisiana up into Tennessee, we are looking at a big time ice storm, and power outages will continue to progress. Okay, so that's what we're looking at, my friends. There is the NAM output for snow. Some of this has already fallen, but another 10 inches potentially here in around the St. Louis area, southern Illinois, Indianapolis, down to Bloomington, and over into Cincinnati, Columbus, up to Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Erie, over into Watertown, and all of these Buffalo, all of these places in New York, Albany, Syracuse. Everybody basically gets almost 20 inches of snow, according to the NAM. And some of the other models are a little bit less than this, but we've got a lot of moisture being fed into this area, and it's going to be very cold. You're going to get good ratios. All right. There's even a severe threat. Look at this. The SPC has a severe threat down here across parts of the Florida Panhandle, southern Alabama, sneaking into Mississippi here as well, and southeast west Georgia. Slight risk of severe thunderstorms later this evening and tomorrow morning. This is just unbelievable. A lot of cape coming in, a lot of instability, and so that's what we're seeing there. Now, I want to show you the pattern as we head on out. That's the storm update. We'll have more on that tomorrow, but we've been talking about the storm so much, we haven't really had a chance to look at the overall pattern. It's going to be cold, okay? That is almost 100% certain that the next 7 to 10 days are going to be very cold. It could last longer than that. Well into February, it looks like we're going to have a pattern that's favorable for cold coming into the United States and pushing to the east, and moisture coming along in the southern branch, the jet stream. And I'm going to show you several models and what they're doing right now. And you're going to look at me with the side eye. I know you are, but just stay with me and I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right. This is the GFS as we get on in toward next Friday. All right. We've got a little clipper coming through, and sometimes these clippers can do funny things as they get onto the East Coast. They usually kind of die out over the mountains, but look at this one. It's pretty potent in Virginia and potentially North Carolina, places into Ohio and Delmarva. We're seeing some snow out of this, but look what's happening down here in the Gulf. Texas, as we get into next Sunday afternoon, we have a storm system around the Gulf, okay? It's pretty far down south, and there it is going across the Florida peninsula and then on out to sea. Yesterday, the GFS had a massive blizzard running up the coast, all right? So we're in the vicinity of a storm on the East Coast, even on today's GFS, but it's a little bit too far to the south. I want you to remember something, all right, as I show you these maps. The current storm that is traveling up the apps was modeled to go well across the south along the Gulf and just mostly be overrunning and not really even be a storm, okay? It was really suppressed. At this lead, at this range, we're talking about 8 to 10 days out, okay? That's what this current storm was doing last week. Now look where it is, all right? This is a legitimate threat, and I'm going to show you why in a minute, but that is just one model. That's the GFS. What about the European? What is it showing? Well, we get on out here. It's got that little clipper coming in, and there's, look at this, not very much. A little reflection, little wave coming across, so there's energy, and then a little bit of a formation out here in the Atlantic. There it goes, the low, and it's far south. Again, it's suppressed with very cold temperatures across the United States. All right, there it goes. What else we got? We got the Canadian. What is the Canadian doing? Well, look at this. Canadian runs this system. There you get a little kind of a near miss here off the coast. A little clipper comes in, and boom! Look at that. Another system down in the Gulf, crossing the. Look at that. Even some snow down here around Charleston, Savannah, Wilmington, Wrightsville Beach, getting some snow, and into the eastern portions of the coastal plain of North and South Carolina. Look at that. And it tries to reform back here as the Canadian kind of wants to do, catches a piece of shortwave energy, catches up, and there it goes. Again, we're talking late next weekend, early next week for the Southeast, all right? So there's the Canadian. European ensembles, I can't show you a surface map, but this is a 24-hour precipitation image here. And look what happens as we roll this along next weekend. You see this signal, this blue and this some greens here. This is a signal for activity. There's some green, look at that. Signal for some of the ensemble members seeing activity in the southern stream getting its act together off the coast. This is the same with the GFS. It's got a much bigger signal. Look at this, just a little suppressed out here, but off the coast. And we all know what happens. These patterns suppress everything to the south 10 days out, and things just tend to work back to the north, and it never is as far south as we tend to believe that it will be that far out. So the GFS has something. The Canadian ensembles, look at that. Again, more activity in the same exact time frame. What about the European AI? Look at this. It's got a little wave going across there as well. It's, again, very suppressed and way down there. But what about the GFS AI? Look at this one. Big time blizzard on Cape Hatteras. But it's very clear. This 979 low. This is something akin to what we saw yesterday. And the models start seeing these things out in La La Land. If one model sees it, yeah, no big deal. It's just how it goes, right? You know what? If you got a whole bunch of models converging on an idea, you need to take the idea seriously. So I'm showing you all this to just put it in your mind that as we get in toward the middle of next week, it's going to be very cold, but we're also going to see the pattern support yet another winter storm. Now check this one out. This is the current pattern, all right? Blocking up here kind of around Greenland, and here's our, we've got some waves, little lobes of the PV kind of rotating through Canada, the northern tier of the United States, some southeast ridging because we've got this Baja low that's coming here and it's amping up the pattern and sending everything to the north, and there's our southeast ridge right there, and big ridge way up here above Alaska sending everything that Canada's got to offer down here into the pattern, all right? That's what's going on right now. Look at the pattern as we get into toward next weekend. This block is now down here in Canada. You've got a 50-50 low, 50 longitude, 50 latitude. Right out here, this is a suppressive pattern. The storm track would be way down here in this pattern. But I'm telling you, this is a fantastic pattern to have at about 10 days out or so. This isn't even 10 days out, all right? So this is 141 hours out. If we get a little bit of a north trend, this is going to put the entire south in the wheelhouse and potentially up the coast and even maybe back inland if we get enough of a north trend. But this would be a wonderful big time pattern. You've got a subtropical jet down here cranking energy along, very cold air working in, and that is just going to remain in place. Look, if I put this on into motion, look what happens. We just get on out in time and it just continues, get this blocking signature over Greenland, air coming across the pole, P&A ridge going up. All of the indexes out in time are favorable for East Coast, Central East Coast, and Southern winter storms. We've got a negative, neutral to negative Eastern Pacific oscillation, a negative Western Pacific oscillation. We've got a negative North Atlantic oscillation. I have to say a lot of oscillation. You've got a negative Arctic oscillation and a positive P&A, Pacific North American pattern. Look at this ridge. That's ridging along the west coast, and blocking is negative. Okay, so when you get these blocks up here, that's a negative NAO, and negative Arctic oscillations blocking across the pole. And this is just feeding back to this very cold pattern, and it's just going to continue to stay cold. And how cold? Look at this. These are scale-busting 850 temperature anomalies as we go through the week. Tuesday, Wednesday, very cold. Even greens are cold. These pinks and purples are really, really cold. We're talking temperatures below zero across the north and getting into the teens and single digits, potentially into the south. And then it modifies a little bit to only just plain old cold by the time we get out to the run, and then starts to rebuild again as more cold air comes in out of Canada. All right, so we already looked at that. This is the European basically the European weeklies version of the what's happening with the stratosphere. And look at this. It's very, very weak and stretched stratospheric polar vortex leading to these episodes of blocking or helping. It's contributory to it, and it is weaker than normal all through the first part of February, maybe even longer than that. Your MJO that we talk about from time to time, look at that. Just phase 8, phase 1, phase 2. Those are the cold phases. And if we go to the European weeklies, it just sort of jams everything up here in the cold phases. And these are good phases for East Coast winter storms if you like that kind of thing. And just to give you a little bit of eye candy here, let me go back up to my weather bell display. European AI ensembles, bring the goods. The ensemble mean actually has snow in parts of the east. This is a really strong signal this far out in time, and so does the actual European ensemble itself. So a lot of potential in the pattern as we head on out in time. Even the Weather Prediction Center is seeing this possibility too, and they've already got their day 7 probabilities. We're talking 20 to 30% down here in Texas, and then farther to the east it sort of tails off because that gets a little farther out in time than they go. But this is what we're looking at as we get on out in time, and that, my friends, is it for today. I wanted to take you through it. Hope it's helpful to you. Share the video, like the content, leave me a comment. Let me know where you're commenting from. If there's anything at all I can be in prayer about to support you, please put in the comment section. Continue to pray for me, my family as well. We all need that, and those people that are losing power and having to struggle in the cold, please keep them up, lift them up in your prayers as well. And hopefully in the east we can remain sleet and have a little less precipitation like the NAM showing. Fingers crossed. In the meantime, take care, stay warm, enjoy the snow, bundle up, and I'll be back tomorrow with another update if the power is on. In any case, take care and have a good night. God bless.